everyone, a warm good morning to you all. So myself, Rachel, working as a product support engineer with ITOM OpManager for the past 3 years. So here is the brief overview on the training schedule of OpManager free training series. Today, we are in the final part of the 4-part training series, and today we'll discuss about add-ons and integrations that are available with OpManager. In the first part, we discussed on how we can add devices into App Manager via the different discovery methods. Then, in the second part, we saw how you can monitor your devices using App Manager. And in the last week, that is the third part, we discussed on alerts, maps, and reports feature of App Manager. For the convenience of larger audience, we do have two schedules of the training series. One is at 6 a.m. GMT, which is happening now, and the other at 11 a.m. EDT. You could join whichever session you prefer based on your convenience, and we'll have the recorded version of this webinar emailed to you by tomorrow along with the presentation material. So you could use it for your future reference, as well as you can share it with your colleagues and friends. Add-ons and integrations are a way of increasing the potential of a tool, and in App Manager we support a number of add-ons and integrations. So let's see what App Manager offers you in this regard. So let's take a quick look at the agendas of today's webinar. Firstly, we'll discuss about add-ons and its benefits. We'll also see the add-ons available in App Manager. After that, we'll talk about the various integrations available with App Manager. And finally, we'll talk about App Manager's mobile apps that allow you to monitor the network on the go. Next slide is about what is an add-on. So add-on is an additional module that enhances App Manager's capabilities, but it does not require any additional installations. It comes bundled with the product, and it only requires you to apply a suitable license. But why do you need an add-on? So App Manager is capable of monitoring your entire IT infrastructure for health and performance, including your servers, VMs, and storage. But let's say if you want to dive deeper and understand traffic patterns, shape traffic, manage configuration and change, and ensure compliance of your network devices with industry standards such as SOX, HIPAA, and so on, this can be done using the App Manager's add-ons. So here is an overview of some of the add-ons that App Manager provides. We have the flow analysis. Using flow analysis, you can monitor the network traffic patterns and bandwidth utilization, that is using your J flows and S flows. Then we have the configuration management, using which you can manage your network device configuration, automate policy-based changes, and ensure compliance of your network devices with industry standards, in addition to maintaining an up-to-date firmware and avoiding the firmware vulnerabilities. Next, we have the Firewall Log Analysis, which will help you to ensure the safety and security of your network environment, especially considering the increasing number of attacks on enterprises worldwide. This comes in real handy. In addition to all of these, you can also monitor your ports and IP addresses, which helps you to keep track of all the occupied IPs and ports in your environment. Now let's check out the benefits of using the add-ons. So unlike other NMS tools in App Manager, deploying an add-on is quick and easy. So the add-on comes bundled with the product, meaning there is no need to download and install an additional exe file. So App Manager add-on supports a wide range of vendors out there. Since the add-on is also from App Manager, the same security and privacy policy applies to the add-ons as well, so your data is safe and secure. Our add-ons are highly economical, and it eliminates licensing complexities. You don't need to waste time managing licenses for multiple tools when you can do it all in one. This also eliminates the need for the complex license management tools. Normally, when you use multiple tools or used to manage a network, it will lead to frequent switching between the tools, and that could cause a lot of confusion. But in App Manager, it's all available in a single console. Now let's check how to enable the add-ons. So these add-ons comes bundled with the product as they are pre-installed. So all you have to do is you have to purchase and apply a single license for App Manager with the additional modules included in the same license, and then enable these modules with App Manager. Now let's check out how do we enable the modules in App Manager. Let's go to the product. So you'll be able to see a gear icon on the top right. You have to just hit on the gear icon, and then we have the displayed modules, and you can just select the displayed modules and hit on save. Once done, our add-ons would be successfully enabled, and you can see the add-ons under the network tab. Network, and you can see the flow analysis, the config management, the firewall log analysis, and the IP management. So now, let me walk you through these modules. First, let's begin with the flow analysis. So Netflow Analyzer, in simple terms, is a traffic analysis and a bandwidth monitoring tool. Let me give an example for this. Let's assume if you're running an organization and there are hundreds of employees, and you have been provided with a 100 BPS link by ISP. If a user complains the link is too slow, using this NetFlow, you can easily figure out which IP is consuming your bandwidth, your ports, and the conversations. This will help us determining the exact reason behind the bandwidth spikes and the outages. So let's now check out the supported device models and the flow. So we support a majority of vendors like the Cisco, the Juniper, the Huawei, Checkpoint, etc. We also support various flows like the JFlows, SFlow, NetFlow, AppFlow, IPFix. And here the licensing is based on the interfaces. Let's see how you can add devices into the flow module. So there are two methods. One is you can directly add it via the UI. So let me show you in the product. I'm hitting on network, flow analysis. On the right side, I have the plus icon. I can just hit on the plus icon. Here, I have to mention the device host name, the IP address that I am trying to add, the appropriate SNMP credential, and you have to choose a protocol if I'm using a Telnet or SSH and provide the necessary details. So here we have to make sure that the ping, the SNMP, and the CLI credentials are passing. And once done, we'll be able to execute, it will be able to execute the flow commands by contacting the device using the credentials provided. And the other option is you can also copy the commands displayed and execute them manually. The other method we have is you have to configure the flow commands in your devices like the switches or the firewalls, or the routers that you're going to work with. In case if you wanted to know about commands to configure the flow, you can just follow the link. Let me show you. So for each of your vendors, you can just export the flow from here. So you can just click on a particular vendor and it will show the flow. So this is for your Juniper routers. So once the flows are received, the device would be successfully added. And once the device is added, the interfaces of that particular device will also be successfully added. So now let me log into the Netflow Analyzer. So here you'll be able to figure out the speed, volume, talkers, and utilization. So let me show you in the demo now. Just hitting on the inventory tab. I'm just going to the devices. This is how our device will be listed. But once we hit this arrow mark, you'll be able to see the interfaces being listed. So now I'm going to one of my interfaces. In the overview tab, you'll be able to see the bandwidth capacity in and out, the flow status, the speed in and out, the utilization, and sampling rate. Then we have the traffic tab, wherein you will be able to see the incoming and the outgoing real-time traffic for a minute. And you can also check based on the volume, utilization, and packets. And in case if you want different time period, you can also go ahead and choose it. Then we have the application tab where you can see the application that consumes the bandwidth. And here we monitor the layer 4 applications that are being used, and we show the top 10 applications used. We have the source tab wherein you'll be able to see which particular IP is consuming the bandwidth. So in case if you just click on this particular IP, you will be able to see the destination IP that the IP is trying to communicate, the port, the protocol in the conversation tab. And you can also see the traffic that is being used. Then we have the AS view, wherein here it'll show you the BGP traffic, that is your in traffic, minimum in speed, maximum in speed, out traffic, and all these details. Then we have the multicast tab. It allows you, in general, multicast will allows you to send a packet to a group of hosts, and you'll be able to see and monitor the multicast traffic by usage and speed. We have the media net. And in case if your organization is using a lot of media arranged traffic, a lot of voice and video, you can show the jitter, the RTT, the packet loss, and the conversation. So now let me tell you how you can create alert profiles in Netflow Analyzer. Let's go to settings, Netflow. We have the alert profiles. So I'm just hitting on add. I'm trying to create a new alert profile. Let's say I wanted to have utilization is greater than 80% with 2 times with 30 minutes interval. So it'll raise me a trouble alert, and I can also choose that value, whether it can be an email, SMS, or run program or chat. Now let's check out the reports that are available with Netflow Analyzer. So let's click on reports, Netflow. We have the search report, which shows the detailed information on the associated application, the protocol and the host or the IP. Then we have the compare reports, which will give us a compare between the bandwidth usage at different time periods, as also as multiple sources from a same time period. Then we have the consolidated report, which will give you the top talkers and the conversations. And we have the inventory report, which shows the combined traffic usage of all your interfaces. With this, we're just closing our Netflow Analyzer. And next, we'll check out the Network Configuration Manager. You might ask me why you need a configuration management tool. With a growing business need, which will in turn grow your network, and we make a lot of configuration changes in our day-to-day basis. Let me give you an example. Let's assume if you have added one device to your network, so you'll be able to log into PuTTY and do the configuration. In case if you wanted to make a same change to many devices, and you'll definitely look for an option to push the configuration in bulk. In that case, if you're logging to each device manually and making necessary changes, because of that, there might be a configuration error, or you might forget to record the change. It will be really beneficial if you are using a network configuration manager to avoid these, so that you will be able to minimize the configuration errors and detect change in the configuration. For example, if a technician is making a change, you will be aware to which device and what changes had been done in the configuration. Kindly note here, the licenses are based on the devices in the Nca module. Now let me show you how you can add devices into a network configuration manager. So I'm just going to the product. So I'm just hitting on the inventory, the devices. So I have to just choose a particular device. Choosing a switch. I'm just choosing a device, and then I can just hit on the 3-pin icon, and I have an option to add to NCM. So once you do this, the device would be successfully present in the network configuration management module. So now in the Network Configuration Manager, we have 3 methods to take backup. One is an instance backup, and then we have a schedule backup, and other we have a real-time change detection. So let me show you in the product. I'm hitting on the Network tab, Configuration Management. I'm just choosing this particular device. I'm selecting it and I'm hitting on a 3-pin icon wherein I have an option called backup. So if you hit on this backup, it will take you an instance backup. And then in case if you want to schedule a backup, you can just choose your devices and hit on schedule. And you can just provide the time period when you would like to take a schedule backup. Then, as I mentioned, we also have the real-time change detection. Let me explain you about this. I'll give you an example. In case if you're out of office and one of your employee logins to the device and makes change in the configuration, and once he logs out of the device, the network configuration manager will take a backup and compare the backup with the previous version. In case if there is a change, it will save the latest version. So all this takes place as a syslogs is triggered from the end device and sent to App Manager server, and backup takes place on demand. So let me show you how we can achieve this. So you have to just choose a device, hit on the 3-pin icon and choose on enable change detection. So now let's check out the other feature, that is a change management. Using this change management, from which you can know that what changes are made, who made the changes, and when was the changes made. Here you can see that every day backup will be made. For each backup, a different version number will be used. So let me show you. I'm just going to this particular device. Here I can see this config changes. Here I can see when was the change done and a new version number is being added and who made the change and whether it is a startup or a running config type and whether it is an authorized or an unauthorized change. Then we have the backup summary wherein you can see the difference between a configuration. See, you can see a new lines being added or modified or deleted. And I'm hitting on this added. So you can see a comparison between the baseline and the running configuration. And you can also have an option to compare between different versions. I'm going to talk about the Firmware Vulnerabilities tab. In this tab, you will be able to view the vulnerabilities in your network, and you can just view their CVIDs and you can just take the necessary remedies. It will help you with the vulnerability type, the base score, and their severity. So now I'm going to talk about the upload request. I'll give you an example for this because configurations are something which is really important and it should be treated with high priority. And only the administrators have to make changes on the device configurations, or that it might lead to a big problem. Even if an admin is assigning a task to an operator to make some changes, it has to come to the admin for the approval. So this is the approval mechanism that we have in the Nca module, where anyone can make changes, but it has to be only the approved by the admin, and only then it will be getting impacted in your devices. So I'm hitting on settings, Nca module. I have this upload request, wherein you can see the pending request, the approved request, and the rejected request. Now I'm going to talk about the config-lets feature. Any configuration that you wanted to execute in a device, it is not now where required that you have to use a third-party tool like Putty to log into the device and execute changes. By using this config-lets, you can create a template for any configuration, and you can just push it to one or more devices at the same time. Let me give you an example for better understanding. Let's assume that you would like to increase the timeout value in many of your routers, like you have around 100 routers. It is not required for you to log in to individually and change the timeout. You have to just create a configlet, enter the timeout, and click on execute, and it will automatically get executed in all your selected routers or your preferred devices. And in addition to all of these, you have an option to schedule the execution, and you can automate this process so that it will happen periodically based on your requirement. Let me show you that. Settings, Nca Module, configurates. So here you can just hit on execute and you can schedule, and in case if we need to add anything, you can hit on add and create a new configurate. Now let's check about the compliance of the Nca module. You know that every organization has to keep its devices compliant to the industrial standards. Let's take Cisco, a majority vendor available throughout the globe. So most industries that use Cisco devices will have to comply with the Cisco iOS policy for the Cisco iOS devices. For example, let's assume, if Cisco is announcing that the SNMP credentials should not be public, in that case, you can make use of this function to check and validate a rule and notify if it has been followed in a device. By default, we have the Cisco iOS, the HIPAA, the SOC policy provided in the product. So let me show you in the product. So let's go to Settings, NCM, Compliance tab. The advantage of this feature is that you can just create a rule and then you can just club it together to make a rule group. Multiple such rule groups can be clubbed together to make a policy. So with this, let's check out the reports available under the NCM module. So I'm hitting on reports, NCM. So we have the hardware inventory report where it will give you the hardware details like your serial model number, the OS type and version, the MAC address, the serial number, device type, and the IP address. Then we have the EOL and the EOS reports wherein it will tell you the details about the end of life or the end of sale of the product. Then we have the startup running config report wherein it will give you the details with devices with startup running conflict or devices without startup running conflict and the devices that has not been backed up. So with this, I've come to an end with Network Configuration Manager. So now let's begin with the Firewall Analyzer. So the Firewall Log Analysis module in App Manager will help you to monitor your firewall logs, the firewall rules, the configuration, backup, and the complaints. So it is primarily a reporting tool that will allow you to monitor and ensure there is network security. So now you might ask me, how can you add your firewall devices to be monitored? So all you have to do is you have to forward syslogs from your firewall devices to App Manager's default syslog listener port, that is 1514, the UDP port, and the devices will get added automatically. So some of the highlighting features are the configuration change management report. We have the firewall policy optimization report, the VPN reports. So let me show you in the product. I'm hitting on the network tab, firewall log analysis. Going to one of my devices. So you'll be able to see the summary tab wherein it will give you the details like the host name, the IP address, the vendor, the downlink, the uplink, the traffic in and out, and these details. Then we have the bandwidth tab wherein it will show you a 5 minutes average of traffic. It is a live traffic. It will show you the top 10 hosts, that is the top 10 hosts that are being that we try to reach the destination, the protocol groups, and the internal server. Then we have the Sites tab. Let's say if your organization is not allowing you to access a social media, but there might be employees who are trying to access, the YouTube or Facebook or other platforms that is limited by a company. So your firewall is already restricting those websites. When an employee is trying to access that particular website or for how many number of attempts was made, you'll be able to see the hit counts. So here it is showing you the allowed websites, the number of hits that has been done. Then we have the Apps tab. Here you can view the application level report. So once you click on the application, you'll be able to see the top 10 hosts and the number of hits and the total bytes. And we also have the application category report. Then we have the rules tab. It will show you the top allowed rules and what are the top denied rules and what are the rules that are unused. So as you know that in your firewall, you can have a number of rules. Now we have this security tab wherein it will show you the top attack with status and the top virus with status, top denied destination, top denied host, and all these details. Next, we have the VPN tab. In the pandemic times, everyone is working connected to their office network via the VPN working from home. So you can monitor all the active VPN users, the number of VPN sessions, and the top VPN traffic. Now let's check how you can add a device rule for your firewall. So let's hit on settings, firewall. So you'll be able to see the device rules of a firewall listed here. Now let's check about the rule management. So now let me log into the Firewall Analyzer demo. In the firewall, what we do is we check all the rules like one after the other. After that, until all the rules you have specified is exhausted. Let's say, you have the rule number 1 is to block Facebook for around 250 IP addresses. And your fifth rule is to block Facebook for a specific IP that is within the 250 IP addresses that you have mentioned in the first rule. So this makes the fifth rule being redundant since we are already checking on for this in the first rule itself. So likewise, you can view the top used, denied, unused rules. So under the rule management overview, here you can see the total rules, the allowed, the denied, and all these rules can be listed here. Then we have the rule reorder, wherein you will be able to see the top rules that you're using will be displayed here. And here we'll recommend the reordering the rules you have configured for a better efficiency. Then we have the rule impact. This feature allows you to identify if there is any possible security threats, risky ports, or with the existing rules before you write it on a firewall. Then we have the rule cleanup. This is used to identify the unused rules that you will be able to clean them to make up your rules stronger. Now, let's see the firewall reports. So reports, VPN reports. So here you'll be able to see the active VPN sessions that are being connected. So with this, we end up with the firewall log analysis. Now we are going to talk about the OpUtils feature of the OpManager Plus. So in OpUtils, we have the IP address manager and switch port mapper. Now first, let's see about IP address management. See, as the name suggests, it will help you to manage the IP addresses. I'll give you an example for this. Have you ever been in a situation or in a sort of confusion in providing an IP address when a device is added to your network? So you have to check, the multiple spreadsheets, and you have to put in a lot of manual work to select the IP that is currently available. And it has to be gets assigned from your DHCP. So here, instead of all these manual efforts, we have come up with a solution, and you can have the status of your IP address in an instance. So let me tell you how this is possible. So now first let's check about the discovery module. So I'm just going to my product. I'm going to the network IP management tab. So we have the option in the UI wherein you can just sync your switches from the App Manager to the ITOM module. So let me show that. Let's go to settings, discovery. Under discovery settings, here I have an option add device to IPAM. So once you have to enable it and save it so that your switches and routers will get added to the IPAM module. So under network, IP management, I can see them. So you can also manually add the IP address. So let me show you that. So I'm just going to the IP address manager, hitting on add subnet. So here I can provide the subnet address. In case if I like to create a group, I can just do it. This group would be helpful. Like consider if you're working in a first floor, you can just group all the IP addresses of your first floor. You can just provide the subnet, and you can just hit on add. Your IP address would be successfully added. So I'm just going to one of the IP address. I'm hitting on the subnet summary, wherein I can see the subnet summary, the address, the mask, the IP availability, that is the used, available, and the transient state. So used state is the IP that is currently in using. And we have the available IP addresses that you can use when a new device is coming in. You can use this available IP address. Then we have this transient state. Like consider when an IP is free for 10 days, post that it will be moved to the available state. Then we'll be able to see the DNS status. Now let's click on the IP details. You can be able to see the IP details, the MAC addresses, the DNS to IP, the DNS status, and the IP address status, like whether it is used, transient. In case if you wanted to perform certain operations like, ping, SNMP ping, traceroute, and all these can be performed. You can also see the alerts that has been raised, like if a forward lookup returns a different IP, or if a reverse lookup failed, you can see all these details. So what we can achieve using this IP address manager is that you can just monitor the status of your IP address. You can identify the connected device, and you can also create an own group, and you can have a preview, and we'll be able to get the DNS and the MAC details. And we also have the history of the IP addresses. And we also have an option to do a scan. Let me show you that. So I can just choose a particular subnet, and I can just hit on the scan icon, and it will perform a scan. Now let's talk about the switch port mapper. So here this will help us to understand the availability of a port, the port view of a switch, and you can see the connected MAC and the VLAN details, and you can also see the port status history. So let me go to a particular switch. I'm just hitting on the summary page wherein I can see the used ports, the transient ports, and the available ports. I can see the switch name, or the total number of ports it has, and the location, and all these details. Then we have the ports tab, wherein you can see the if index, the if name, the port number, the availability, whether this port is up or down, the status, and you can see the MAC details, the IPs, and the VLAN details. You can also see the admin status and the if speed. So in case if you wanted to add a switch, you can just click on add switch. And you also have the other option like importing from your CSV file. And you'll be able to see the port history and the port view. We'll have a image wherein you can see if a port is occupied or not. Then you can also see the alerts being raised. So now let's discuss about the rogue detection feature. So this rogue detection feature will help you to know if someone is unauthorized access to your network devices. So it will only allow authorized new devices to your network. So you can also have an option wherein you can just choose a device and mark them as a guest or a trusted or a rogue user. So all you have to do is you have to import device based on your MAC device details, or you can also import via Active Directory so that the unauthorized devices would be marked to a rogue devices. And here the licensing is based on the ports and the IP addresses. So with this, we wind up with the OpUtils module. So coming back to our presentation, now I'm going to talk about the Applications Manager. So the last feature that we are going to check is the Application Manager, and it is a plugin available with this, and the licensing here is based on the number of monitors being used. So it is providing us with an out-of-box monitoring for applications across your physical, virtual, and cloud environment, and it helps us in a smooth end-user experience. Adequately run an application, you will definitely need a backend server, a database, and a UI to operate. So all these components can be monitored using an application management. So let me show you how we have to enable it. So let's go to settings, general settings. Under third-party integrations, we have the applications manager. So you have to just hit on configure and provide the necessary details. Now let's go to the applications manager demo. So here we'll monitor, different databases, servers, and services. So let me show you in the product. So I'm hitting on the home tab wherein you can see the monitors groups, the recent 10 alarms, the heat map widget, the monitor status view, and these details. Then I'm going to the monitors tab wherein you can see the application servers that we support, like the Glassfish, JBoss server, Java runtime, Tomcat server. So I'm just going to the Tomcat server, wherein I can see the availability, the performance graph, that is the used memory, average processing time, and health history. Then further which, if I drill down, I'll be able to see my availability history, the performance history for the last 6 hours, the server response time, server performance, and all these details. So then in the services, I can monitor Apache Spark Worker, Active Directory, Hadoop, Telnet, and much more. Then in the database servers, we have the Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL, Postgres. So let me go to the MS SQL server. So wherein I can even see my MS SQL performance, availability, and the list view. So I'm hitting on this MS SQL server wherein I can see, the monitor information, the availability dial, the buffer catch ratio, the planned catch hit ratio, memory usage, the buffer manager statistics, and I can see the performance details, the average CPU, total CPU, and I can see the database, that is the data file, the log file, the total size, and the health, then the sessions that is being carried out, the connection statistics, SQL statistics, attributes, and much more. Next, we support a large number of web servers, that is Apache, PHP, REST API monitors, and also servers like, HPUX, Linux, Mac OS, Novel, and virtualizations like the Docker, Citrix Hypervisor, vCenter. We also support the cloud apps and the middleware portal, and plus the mail servers. Now, let's check about APM Insight. So we have something called the App Deck Score, which will allow you to know how well your application is performing. So this will give you a picture how your application performs for different users using a different geographical location. So I'm just going to the .NET application, wherein I could be able to see, the transactions, the database traces. response time, the app score, the request throughput, and errors and exceptions count. Let me give you an example. Let's consider if you're in an organization that is running an application. So, and it is related to ticket booking. So, this is really critical for a traveler. Let's say there is only one last ticket and he's trying to book, but he goes to the payment page and the checkout window, the app is crashing. Because of this, he might not be able to travel, and sometimes the ticket might get booked to different date. So to give a better end user experience, you have to keep track of how your application is performing, and you have to understand the end user's experience using in your application. So let me show you. We have the EUM, that is end user management, wherein you can monitor the real-time monitoring. I'm hitting on this. So I can see the availability history and I can see the performance history. Further to which, if I drill down, I can just find the average page load time, the transaction time, the page load time for steps for each of your steps. So you can see how it happens, and you can also have the graphs. To give better end user experience, you have to track how your application is performing and understand the end user's experience in using your application. So, actions should not be taken after an end user is raising a complaint. So, with this application manager, you can monitor your application and you can proactively take measures and ensure that your app is never crashing and fix the issue before your end user is impacted by it. The crash might happen due to multiple factors like the high utilization of resources on the server where a app is being hosted, or it could be because of the background database when an error has happened during a data dump. By monitoring your application, you can pinpoint the exact problem and you can just fix it in a timely manner. So coming back to our presentation, we're going to talk about the integrations. Integrations extend the scope of App Manager with other managed engine applications and third-party tools. So what you see on the screen are some of the third-party integrations that are available in App Manager out of the box. These are some of the applications to which App Manager is tightly integrated with. So let me show you how we can do the integration. So I'm going to the product. I'm hitting on settings, general settings, third-party integrations, wherein I can see all the integrations being listed like Service Desk Plus, Service Desk Plus Cloud, ServiceNow, Slack, the Alarms one, and the Jira. So for the Service Desk Plus, I have to just hit on configure and provide the host name or the IP address where the Service Desk Plus is hosted, and the appropriate technician key. And in case if you want my devices to get synced, you can just provide sync devices to STP, sync newly discovered devices in the future. And we also support Service Desk Plus MSP. Then coming back, for your Service Desk Plus Cloud, we have to provide the grant token and you have to select the data center. For the ServiceNow, we have to provide the ServiceNow of the instance URL that is running, the username and the password. And you can just hit on sync now. Then we have the Slack, the alarms one. So for the Slacks, we have to provide the appropriate auth code. For the alarms one, we have to provide the API key. Then for the Jira that is on-premise, that we have to provide the server name or the DNS name, then provide the appropriate username and the password. So this Service Desk Plus and ServiceNow are the two ITSM tools that we readily offer integrations. If you have either STP or ServiceNow integrated to App Manager, and in case if an alert message say a server down is generated, so you can configure this STP and ServiceNow so that these alerts are automatically converted to trouble or critical tickets, and it will be assigned to the respective technicians. And even when the server gets back to normal and the App Manager alarm is cleared, the ticket will be automatically closed. And this is the real power of integration. Coming to the next slide. So as I've already showed you the Slack, Analytical Plus, and the Alarms one. So App Manager can be integrated with these third-party tools, and we have easy integration with Odd Code from Slack. We'll have the alarms being delivered directly to your Slack workspace, alarms from multiple channels and users, and we also have category and service severity-based channel alerts. Then we have the Analytical Plus, wherein you can visualize data using different chart types and predefined templates. You can also build, insightful reports and dashboards that are useful for powerful visualization to identify the patterns. Then you can drill down and to specific metric to pinpoint areas that really needs improvement. And finally, we have the alarms one, wherein based on that, you can group your alarms based on severity, category. You can also create filters and classify the alerts, and you can also get rid of redundant alerts. Now, we're going to talk about the mobile app. So with the App Manager mobile application, you have a greater visibility into your IT infrastructure. That is, it is not limited to your desk anymore, because you can monitor your IT in real time while you're in a meeting or you're commuting or taking a break. So some of the highlighting features are you can monitor your entire IT infrastructure anywhere and anytime. You can get an instant push notification on your device availability and the performance. You can just know the status of your business critical servers with custom push notifications, and you can remotely troubleshoot with ping, traceroute, SNMP ping tools, and much more. So we have our mobile applications available in Play Store for Android and for App Store for Apple devices. So we have a live discussion on digital transformation for enterprise ITOPs that is happening tomorrow, April 27 at 11 a.m. EDT. You can also register that. And with this, we come to an end of today's session. And now let's discuss about the questions that have been asked during the session. So where should I check for the demo side for all these add-ons? So if we can have a check in the demo plus opmanager.com, wherein you'll have the add-ons listed under the network tab, flow analysis, config management, firewall log analysis, and IP management. In case if you wanted to reach out to specific demo sites, you can log into demo.fwanalyzer.com, and you can log into demo.appmanager.com. Similarly, demo.networkconfigurationmanager.com. So how to integrate with PagerDuty? We can integrate using webhook. I would have discussed this in the previous session. So that is under settings, notifications, invoke a webhook. Click on add, invoke a webhook, and we have a separate document. So let me show you. PagerDuty integrating with App Manager. Also refer this following link. So where can I learn more about all the add-ons? So to know in detail about the add-ons, we have, the dedicated webinars happening. So you can register for the sessions or only in the add-ons that you're interested in from the screen. That is www.manageengine.com/itom/free-training-series. So do you support integration with Service Desk Plus on cloud? Yes, we do support. So let me show you in the product. Let's go to settings, general settings. Under third-party settings, we have the Service Desk Plus Cloud. You have to just hit on configure and provide the grant token and select a particular data center. Coming to the next question, how to sync asset from App Manager to STP? So let me show you in the product. So let's go to settings, general settings, third-party integrations. So hitting on Service Desk Plus, configure, and here we have an option, asset settings. So you have to enable sync devices to STP, sync newly discovered devices in the feature, and you have to hit on sync now. So we know with this marks our end of a session, and in the second season of Op Manager free training series. I hope you had a really nice learning experience. And before you leave, I would request you to share your opinion and the presentation by participating in the following polls. So if you'd like to become an Op Manager specialist, you can just register in the below link. And you can also watch our YouTube videos under youtube.com/opmanagertech videos. And you can also reach us out to a support opmanager-support at ManageEngine.com. And you can also reach out to your peers at forums.manageengine.com/opmanager. So thank you. Thank you so much.